The Adweek Copywriting Handbook. To be completely frank, before I even started reading this book, the idea of copywriting was completely foreign to me. I thought copywriting just meant protecting intellectual property, and that copywriters were just people enforcing these. This was wrong, obviously. These are two very different terms. Copywriting in this context, according to the book, is a way to get people to exchange their hard-earned money for a product or service. I chose to read this book because I saw a video on Instagram by Safana Banana. She advocated a lot for this book, how it can help make you come across as a professional in your respective fields. So I went ahead and read it. Published in 2006, I didn't expect much of the book to still be relevant today. But I found that a lot of the concepts taught are still being applied to modern media. I also didn't think that I would stand to gain much since I'm not a copywriter myself, but this is false. A lot of the content taught is applicable in other mediums outside of copywriting, which I'll go into detail later, but briefly, the book goes into detail about how you should be writing copy, the processes, the principles, and the various criteria when writing. A lot of what's mentioned in the book, at least for me, were quite elementary. Perhaps it wasn't back then in 2006, but by no means is it a bad thing. Some of these principles I may have overlooked since they were quite simple, and by covering them, the author manages to link everything together better and sheds light on these concepts I may have missed out. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I know this sounds a lot like blabber, but I'll try to reiterate these later and hopefully it will make more sense then. The book is structured in 4 sections. It starts off with the fundamental knowledge and then progresses to the more nuanced details. And then it finishes off with all the key examples. There were a lot of overlapping topics and concepts, and he often used phrases like if you remember in chapter 4, or like he'll keep referring back to the same articles he used as examples, which it really helps to reinforce the lessons. Overall, I give this book a 7.6 rating. I'll now give my personal thoughts and the key takeaways for each section and try to justify this rating. Introduction/Section 1. The book starts off with the author just glazing himself. Just kidding. Mostly kidding. He does hype up the book quite a lot, how he's gone through a lot just to become a successful copywriter. He said something like, my failures far outnumbered my successes, blah blah blah. Typical motivational speaker stuff. And how this book is essentially a compact version of his seminar that people would pay $3,000 to attend. Which, fair enough, it was very enticing, it was quite convincing. It made me read the whole book. So the first section comprises of the mindset and fundamentals of his copywriting technique, both of which I think are equally valuable. Oh, and the process of copywriting. Mindset wise, I think it can be summarized into 1. Having a growth mindset, and 2. Having a growth mindset, being willing to learn whatever, not limiting yourself, and also having the specific knowledge of what you're selling. It also means knowing the customer and the best way to sell to said customer. Excuse me. I think he emphasizes this quite a lot throughout the book. In this section alone, he talks about it in chapters 2, 6, 7, and 15. Essentially, being able to resonate with the customer and soothing them, making them feel comfortable almost. These includes things like setting up the graphics or the layout of the copy, and making them agree a lot with what you say. Right? Like he uses this example in the book where the car salesman would keep saying things like, "Oh, what a fantastic weather," or "Yeah, this car looks really good," right? Or some things like that. whatever. Next, emotion associated with words. Now this is interesting. The example given in the book really illustrates this point, and I'll flash it on the screen real quick. But just the words alone being able to create a whole different emotion that taps into the reader's impulsive thoughts and make them want to buy. I thought it was quite interesting, and it now makes me wonder about all the different words that can be replaced as well. You know, it makes me think whether I'm using the best words in whatever situations, or you know, what emotions I can evoke with my words. Another principle that is scattered throughout the book is being personal with the reader. So using words like I and you and coming across as authentic instead of using big words like we or this corporation, trying to act personal instead of instead of established. Funnily enough, he applies this concept when writing this book, and it really does work. I can almost imagine the type of person just based off his reading. Is this weird? I don't know. Copywriting fundamentals. It boils down to capturing the reader's attention and retaining that attention. Slippery slide is the analogy that he likes to use a lot. How it means like the reader shouldn't be able to stop once they start just because of how good the material is, and every sentence of the copy should get you to read the next. He makes it sound a lot easier than it is, but I suppose this is where the specific knowledge part comes into play. He does build on this later on, like creating a story, making a hook, etc. The concept shared in this section was planting seeds of curiosity. So using terms like "let me explain" or here comes the good part. Selling a concept instead of a product. I think this is another one that I overlooked, but I found it quite common these days. I remember there being an ad for the Apple Watch about how some dude got lost in the middle of the ocean, and then the Apple Watch was a emergency device almost, and they used that as like the whole premise of the advertisement. So I suppose that there is an example of this concept. Most of the process for copywriting is quite self-explanatory, or it's quite I assume most people already use. It's pretty much just dumping out all your thoughts and edit afterwards, make the grammar proper, whatever. There is one part that is somewhat interesting, the incubation process. It's like after you've done dumping out all your ideas, you should go out and distract your mind and let it work in the background. I have no idea if this actually works or not, but I'll give it a try the next time. Section 2. The second section covers 23 copy elements and 31 psychological triggers to buying. The elements are like, it's whatever. A lot of it involves like being straightforward, presenting the product well with both layouts and descriptions. Rhythm was one of the more interesting lessons. Mixing short and long sentences provides a sense of variety and rhythm, so it wouldn't sound too boring for the readers. I think this applies to writing in general, even outside of copy. What else do we have? Being trustworthy is a recurring theme in this book. I think it's also very related to soothing the customer, making them feel like you are trustworthy. So this includes things like providing them a trial period for the product, or return policy, like if you are unsatisfied with the product, you can return it in 7 days, or 7 day or 2 months return policy, and it makes them feel guilty or like they're getting a steal by buying. Setting an objective and addressing it. I think this was also mentioned slightly back in the first section. So anticipating the worries that reader may have. I think this is another fundamental concept that a lot of companies use today. Similarly, a lot of the psychological triggers are straightforward. I definitely won't cover everything in this video, but he does raise some good points, all of which I think are quite relevant. Things like timing, creating urgency with your ads, using storytelling to entice, or creating a fad, creating a sense of belonging as well, I think is really prevalent today. Like the whole Labubu thing, there's like almost a fear of missing out if you don't own one. I mean, personally, I think it's a fucking scam, but I mean, so many people buying it obviously proves that this concept is effective if done well. There's an example that's stated in the book that I would disagree with. When he talks about using a fad, he uses the example of how at the time women's liberation was on the rise and how he capitalized on this by suggesting to ban women at a ski resort. And then shortly after it caught flame, the ski resort would lift the ban and they gain a lot of traction. I think people might misinterpret this as any attention is good attention, which obviously I think isn't true and has been proven wrong by many past scenarios. I think the most recent one, the Friend AI saga, which caught a lot of people's attention in I don't know where, New York or some shit. But it failed to boost the sales. I know a lot of people got mad at the advertisements, and the CEO was like, "Oh, we still got a bunch of attention," but they didn't end up selling much. So I don't know. Maybe it works to an extent, but probably not the best. This section also provides like a formula. They call it the fog index to calculate what grade your writing is at, and that a lower grade will mean reaching a larger audience. I think it's quite a niche concept, but it's not something you should place too much emphasis on, like he mentions in the book. But interesting regardless. Section 3/4. Now I've combined section 4 with 3 because the main bulk of the content has already been covered in the previous sections. Section 3 was by far the most fun to read because after reading about all these concepts, you finally get to see the real examples and the real applications of how to use it. Everything just clicks, you know? And your understanding of all the topics really solidifies. The ads itself were quite fun to read. What I liked is that he included both good and bad examples, and even how he would fix the bad examples, particularly the one on the airline crashing, and how he would address the public's concern instead of just avoiding it like the original. My favorite one by far is probably the one where he tries to sell his private jet, pet plane. It was a fun read and it's very convincing as well. The next section, section 4, I can't lie, this is probably the most useless one unless you're an actual copywriter. It talks about how you should present the ad for each medium, like television or radio or the newspaper. I mean, realistically, the average person will only use it for like email or social media, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I actually enjoyed the book so much that I went ahead to test what I've learned by making my own copy in the form of an email. It's about a cockroach gel. I've linked it in the description and you can go check it out if you want, but please don't critique me too much. I also included the AI refined version so you can see the difference. I know it's not the best, but yeah, I thought I'd try to put what I've learned to test. Otherwise, yeah, I do recommend reading this book. Goodbye. Where is my Audacity?